The most important thing that you can do for your jazz playing is to just start playing with people. You know, whether you're struggling with technique, vocabulary, phrasing, tune learning, listening, playing with people will help all of those things. No matter what level you're at, whether you're just starting or if you're super advanced and you want to develop your skills. But if you're watching this video, there's probably a reason that you're not playing with people, or that you're not playing with the people that you want to play with. Maybe there's some really good people in your area or your neighborhood, but you feel too intimidated. And I just want to encourage you to just take that step and start playing with people. And rather than in this video like give you a bunch of frameworks that I used or like even sharing my own experience, because I know that it can feel like, okay, Jameson, you already like lived in Chicago and played a bunch of jazz gigs, like you're already a made man or whatever. It can feel a little inaccessible. I just wanted to share with you the stories of some of my students who either started playing with people for the first time or they started playing with better people, and kind of what they went through to get to that stage. So if you've been thinking about playing with people, you might feel like, dude, I'm not even motivated to practice. I'm having a hard time getting through things. Like when I'm practicing things, it takes me a million times and it's kind of a slog, right? And my student Mike was kind of feeling like this, right? He would ask me like, you know, in our sessions together, okay, so do I just have to play it a million times? Or I guess it's just a slog then. I guess it's just a willpower. And at first when he asked me that, I was like, what? I don't get it. When I was practicing as a kid, it was a joy to figure those things out. And I was always so excited about music that it was fun for me to work all of those things out and kind of go through the trials and tribulations. And so we worked at it for a while, and eventually I realized like the thing that made me get through those is the passion, right? And a lot of that passion is because I was playing with people and it was so fun and I loved it. So I encouraged Mike to go to his first jam session, right? Mike had never played jazz with people before. So naturally he was kind of intimidated. He kind of had that feeling of like, if I just get good enough, I'll go, right? But I just knew that it would change his motivation completely just to see it in action. So I said, just go to the jam session. You should play, you should sit in, you're ready. I totally believe in you. But if you're too scared, it's okay to just go and check it out and see what the vibe is, okay? So he went to this jam session and he watched. He didn't sit in or anything. He was a little too intimidated. But when he came to our next session together, he was like jumping out of his seat. He was so excited. He was saying, oh, I saw when they were doing that, they were comping in this way. That's like what we talked about. And, you know, when they were soloing, they were phrasing this way. And he was just going, right? He was super excited about it because he saw all these things that we were working on and what the context was. And not only that, he said like, you know, I feel like if I just could play a little faster, I could play some of those tunes. Or, oh, I just need to get good at trading fours. Then I could sit in. And he realized like he's actually not that far away from it. There's only a couple more things that he needed to tick off. And all of a sudden, all those practice problems that were kind of like, I guess I just gotta play it a million times, or I guess it's just a slog that I have to go through, those just kind of vanished. And he was so motivated for so long just from going to that jam session and just seeing what he was working for and all these people who love what he loves, what they were doing. Now, you might be thinking, that's great, Jameson, but there's not even any jams in my city, right? I get this all the time. Everybody's like, I live in Florida, there's no jams in my city. Or I live in Montana, there's no jams in my city. And I gotta tell you, I have students all over the country and they tell me that all the time. And a lot of times it's just because you're a little afraid to look. Like my student Kevin, you know, he lives out in Florida. And he was telling me, oh, there's no jazz in Miles, right? And I was like, really? How do you know? Right? And I said, so if I Google Jazz Jam near me, or Jazz Jam near me, Florida, right? Am I going to see any jam sessions? And he said, no way, man, no way, right? And so I Googled it, and look at that. Here's a session on this night. Here's a session on this night. Here's a session on this night. And he was like, oh, I didn't even realize. So he goes to one of those sessions, right? And he comes back the next week and he says, Jameson, I went to the session. And I said, how'd it go? And he said, oh, it was so great. Actually, they need a drummer to host it regularly, right? And so he's like, oh, so I brought my drum set the next week and I hosted the jam session, and now I'm the weekly house drummer. And then he said, nobody else used to show up to that jam in terms of drummers, right? But now, since he's hosting it every week, there's all these drummers that are coming. So because he took that step, he put himself out there, he took the initiative to find a jam session, even near him in Florida, right? All of a sudden, there's this new jam session that other drummers can go and hone their skills. So he created the opportunity for them. He created community. He created a session so that other people can hone their skills and that they can become better jazz musicians. And it's all because he went to play with people. And I know it's probably just like kind of scary to like even go to that. A lot of you guys, you know, you've been practicing in your room, you've been learning tunes, you've been going over your chord scales, and it's this feeling of like, okay, once I get to this level, then I'll go, right? I want to encourage you to do it the opposite way. I'm gonna go, and then it's gonna tell me what level I need to get to. And you'll feel more comfortable. You'll see that the community is really, really supportive. I mean, that's why these jams exist, is because that's how everybody learned, and they wanna be around each other. They wanna give each other the opportunity to get better and to play. Something like this happened to my student Steve, right? I was telling him, man, dude, you're sounding fantastic. Your comping's great, your soloing's great, you got a great touch, you know all these tunes. Like, you need to be playing with people. I'm confident that you're gonna be playing gigs if you just put yourself out there. And so he's like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go to a jam session. And he was texting me and he was like, I'm at the jam session. I'm a little scared, right? I don't know if I'm gonna play today, but I'm here. I'm just gonna watch this time. And I was like, you should play, right? And I'm like, it's okay if you don't play, but you should, because you're ready, right? And he was like, you know what? I'm just not comfortable this time. So he just sat and he watched and he soaked in the vibes, and he thought of a couple tunes that he's gonna call next time so that he would feel comfortable, right? And he went back the next week, and because he had met the guy who ran the session the week before, he felt totally comfortable just walking up there and saying, hey, can I sit in? And then he sat in and he played great. And he had a blast. And he even like took a video and sent it to me. He said, hey, I sat in, right? And now he's like, oh, I'm just gonna go there every week. Like, that's gonna be my hang now. And it's all because he just took the initiative to go, even though he wasn't gonna play. He just went, and it's just kind of like baby steps. Go there, meet everybody. Next week, maybe you play. You know, next week, maybe you introduce yourself to a really great player who you might be intimidated to talk to, right? And if you just keep taking those steps, you're gonna get closer and closer, and it's gonna make everything else improve, okay? Now, I know it can feel a little scary to do that. I really suggest that you get some community around you of other people who are doing this. Like, when I was, you know, living in Chicago, trying to kind of make a name for myself as a jazz musician, I had all these musicians around me, young musicians who were out there pounding the pavement. They were going to all the sessions, they were going to all the gigs, they were booking, they were shedding, we were hanging out, we were practicing together, right? And that is really what I'm trying to create with the jazz school, okay? So in addition to having a mentor who's done it, like somebody like me who's just kicking your butt, who's encouraging you, who's helping you through the challenges so that you can get out to those first sessions, and then you can get hired for your first gigs, and then you can start leading your own bands, you're also gonna have the community of other people who are doing it, right? People who are going through the same trials, the same tribulations, who can share their experience and really keep you accountable so that it's a lot easier. So if that's something you're trying to do, you're ready to really become a complete jazz musician, I highly suggest you click the link in the description, get more information about applying for the jazz school, and then reach out if you think it's gonna be a good fit. Now, let's say you get to that point where you do go to the jam session. The next step is to start to reach out and kind of get people to play with, you know? And I see this a lot with really advanced players. Like one of my students, Kyle, he's a great drummer, man. He was coming off a little bit of injury, right? I coached him through overcoming his tendonitis. He also had a physical therapist and a doctor that were helping him with that. And then finally he got to the point where it's like, yo, I can play again. And I was like, dude, you're a fantastic player. You need to get out to these sessions again. And he had a little bit of like, I've been away for it so long, you know, a little bit of confidence things going on. And I was like, dude, you just need to get out there. And so he made the time. He said, you know, Monday, 7 p.m., that's when the session is in my town. He went out there and he had a blast, man. He was smiling ear to ear playing. He sent me a video of it. And the coolest thing is like, he met some guitarists and pianists who played in that kind of style that he really liked. And they reached out. They were like, hey, like, let me get your number. We should play together sometimes. And that's how it really starts. That's how you start to get your first bands. That's how you start to have musical friends that you can invite over to your house or your studio, and you guys can shed together. And then that's like a controlled environment that's really safe, where you can be artistic, where you can express yourself and really get the reps in to where you feel confident soloing and maybe even writing your own music, right? And once you start to do that, the next thing that's going to happen is that you start to get gigs, right? That you start to have your own bands, that you start to get hired for other bands. And this is for the people who can really, really play, who really put in the work. Like my student Glenn, he has been working his tail off. I mean, this guy practices like no other. He's doing transcriptions, he's practicing technique, he's working on big band, he's working on his phrasing, and he just works at it. He loves it. Jazz is his thing, man. He is a jazz drummer. And so he went to this one session. I'm like, dude, Glenn, you sound so fantastic. Like, I just want the world to see you because, you need to be playing more gigs, right? And so he went to this one jam session. It was the first time he went. Sat in, he knew the tune, played really well, and said hi to everybody afterwards. And I think it was like the pianist or something was the person running the jam session. And they liked his playing so much that they called him next week to be the house drummer at the same jam session. And that's all from just putting himself out there, right? So many of us, we spend so much time practicing and just honestly being a little too hard on ourselves, trying to be so perfect that we can just get good enough to where people would want to play with us. But really, you just got to take the step to put yourself out there. Play with people if you're not already. Play with better people if you want to keep getting better. And just trust that you have everything that you need, and whatever you don't have, you're going to learn it if you just put yourself out there. So if you're not already playing with people, I encourage you to ask a question in the comments, right? Tell me what you're going through, why you're not playing with people. If you want to make a commitment to go to a jam session next week and we can all hold you accountable, do that in the comments. That's what we do. That's how this jazz community grows, because we all want to play with people and we need more people to play with. So we want more people growing the jazz scene so that we can all keep growing. So if you found this video useful, hit a thumbs up or a comment or like and subscribe or something, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.